Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first session of our Corona Conversations. I want to thank our partners, Chris Massengill at the St. Tammany Corporation and Susan Barnett at our North Shore Community Foundation for their partnership in putting on this series. Today is the first of 6 series, and before we get started, I just want to say this is, we have done webinars via Zoom through COVID. We did our legislative wrap-up, and Jessica Hester is our tech expert, so she's going to tell you a few housekeeping things before we get into the agenda.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple of things. At the bottom of your screen, you will see the question and answer buttons. At the end of this presentation, after all 3 of our speakers speak, we will have question and answers available. So go ahead and enter them there. Also, the webinar is being recorded, and any handouts that are shared today will then be emailed to you. You should receive it tomorrow morning. But if you need anything that you need to speak to me or have any questions during this, go ahead and just message me privately in the chat. Thank you. Now back to you, Lacey.
Okay, so again, thank you all for tuning in with us. I'm going to make some opening remarks and let you know what our agenda is. So we have now called it to order. Each one of our 3 speakers today has 15 minutes. They may go a little over, they may go a little under. And we are going to begin with Matt Faust, who is representing our parish assessor, Louis Fitzmaurice. And he will be followed by our parish president, Mike Cooper, who will be followed by our mayor of Slidell, Greg Cromer. Our intention here today is to give everyone a picture of the property taxes that we expect to receive in this assessment year and the impact on parish government and from our largest city. We do have a couple of other mayors on the call. We have other elected officials and business leaders, so we do encourage you to put your questions up during their presentations, but the questions will not be answered until following the presentations. So that will be at about 3:55 or 4 p.m. So why are we here today? How many answers to questions since March 18th have been, I don't know? How many rumors, alleged facts, and simply ongoing questions and fears are being circulated in conversations, social media, and among different political, social, and civic groups? So why are we here? We are convening in an attempt to have factual conversations, including real answers to questions whose answers are, I don't know, and to put our heads together to help when that real answer needs to be found. We appreciate the participation, again, of our panelists in presenting the facts as they are today and the questions that still need answers. If the answer is not one we want to hear, we want to help define it, the answer, as fact. It's not an answer we want to hear, but it's a fact, and we want to help address it and help find a better answer in a second or third future convening. Pre-COVID, we call these town hall meetings in person. So think of this as somewhat of a town hall meeting. The pandemic created many urgent needs, but our leadership agreed we needed to pause, step back, look at the immediate and the long-term future. Our local government budgets will be impacted by decreased sales. At least that was the prediction. I hear they're actually looking good now, so we'll learn that from our panelists. Possibly decreased property tax revenues. Our charitable, community, and civic organizations will be impacted since their fundraising efforts have basically come to a halt. So in late June, these discussions began among the leadership of our 3 organizations, and the initial plan was adapted. We will have 5 more convening sessions set already. You will get the dates for those tomorrow morning as participants. Today, you will be the first to receive those dates and the subjects that will be addressed. We have had to be fluid. Some people thought this was happening too soon. Some people thought this was happening too late. But we are now enacting the final plan. So we will begin with you, Matt Faust, and your presentation from the assessor's office. Thank you.
First, let me thank you and the Chamber for hosting this conversation, and thank all of those who have Zoomed in to be a part of this conversation. And thank you for letting me represent the assessor today as well. I'm a believer that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I put together some graphs that I want to go through with everybody. And if anybody has any questions at the end, I'll do my best to answer that. So to start with, my first graph is showing what we call the grand recap, the total amount of tax revenue that is being generated by the various millages since 2012. And you can see a consistent increase over the years. I think it shows our office is doing a good job with that. You'll see a particularly bigger than normal increase for 20, which is our reassessment year. And I contribute that to this office reassessing some areas of the parish that have not been reassessed in multiple assessment periods. So that represents about a $29 million increase in revenue that would be shared by the various taxing bodies in St. Tammany. But I will preface that COVID-19 will make this an interesting year. We expect from the commercial standpoint on income producing properties, the hospitality side, that we may end up making some adjustments to that, which will probably lower that, what you see there, $340 million. But I would think maybe another couple %, but we still think it's going to be a pretty decent increase overall. You can go to the next slide. So the next slide, what I wanted to do is show you where the money goes to the various taxing bodies. As what everybody is aware, the school board gets the majority of that. Next in line, the various 5 districts, you'll see a little take of another little pie where some other money goes, including the city of Covington and whatnot. I do want to point out that just to show you that maybe unbeknownst to a lot of people, the parish government receives less than 12.5% of the total revenue generated by millages. And I'll point out too that the assessor only gets 1.78%. So that's where the money goes. You saw the total. This is how it's split up. So what I did from that point, I wanted to take some of the larger taxing entities like the school board, fire district, and kind of show you them individually, the growth that they've had since 2012. I didn't get into all the other small taxing bodies. That would have been a lot of graphs to try to present. So I just try to take the biggest ones. So again, we could get a feel for what the millages have raised in revenue since 2012. So the first one I'll show is the school board, since that's the largest taxing body in the parish. And they've rolled back millages in 16 and in 20. I'll wait there. Okay, there it goes. So you can see the revenue from about 114 million, 148 million in 2020. Pretty decent increase we're showing so far from 19 to 20 that follows the increase that you saw from the parish-wide numbers. Again, that may get decreased some as we roll back some, not roll back, but have some reviews that come in that causes us to reevaluate some properties based upon existing income levels. But again, pretty decent increase, consistent year after year since 2012. So next we'll look at Fire District 1, which is the next highest individual taxing entity in the parish. You can see from 12 to 20, about 14.5 million to 21.5 million. And you can see the increase from 2019 to 2020. Again, they did roll back some as well from the increased revenues that's being generated by new properties, by the new reassessment. So I think that just speaks for itself. Again, it's a consistent, with the exception of years 2012 to 2013, there's been a pretty good increase in revenues that are generated. Again, we've spent a lot of time over the years finding a lot of properties, and some of that has to do with the increase as well, not just reassessment and growth. So that's one. And the next one I think we have is 4. Same story here. You can see the growth from 11,760,000 to 6 million and a little bit more in 20. And you can see the growth from 19, almost 15 million to a little over 16 million with the reassessment in 20. Again, this is the Mandeville Area Fire District. And then the last one I have is Fire District 12. Same thing, you can see the growth throughout the years. The 2020 number is based upon the existing millages. We did not have the latest. I don't think we received whether or not they're rolling back or not. So that number in 2020 could possibly be a little inflated depending upon what the rollback might be. So that's pretty much it from my end.
Thank you so much, Matt. No questions have popped up on our side yet, so we encourage anyone that does have questions, has jotted any down, to just keep them in mind, and we will get to them at the end of this presentation. So now we would like to ask our parish president, Mike Cooper, to join us with his presentation. Thank you for joining us, Mike.
Thank you, Lacey, and thanks for all the participants here this afternoon. I'm here at Coop Drive in our conference room, where I have been literally every day since COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order was issued back in mid-March. I'd like to say that my first 6 months has given me the chance to work closely with each and every department in parish government as we immediately came together to address the response to COVID-19. And this unexpected path has given us all an opportunity to work collectively over a sustained duration during this time. We have an excellent group of professionals at every level, and I'm confident in our ability to lead St. Tammany in times of opportunity as well as in times of challenge. And my main initiatives and goals at this time, actually upon taking office, was to rebuild trust between St. Tammany citizens and parish government, to streamline services, to increase efficiencies and reduce operating costs in parish government, and to create partnerships with local and state leaders on issues that impact citizens, including infrastructure and economic development. Upon taking office and taking on the new budget, 2020 budget that was developed by the previous administration, in order to get to know the budget a little better, I deferred spending on large capital assets that had been budgeted, particularly large equipment in public works and such. And with COVID-19 in mid-March, I deferred the start of some infrastructure projects that had been budgeted while others continued in progress. And as we continue to see, those projects continue to go on. I'm going to start getting into the financial picture of what we have and give some statistics with regards to home construction, home building construction. We have in 2019 through June 30th, last year through June 30th, we had 737 building permits issued. And through June 30th of this year, just last month, we had 685 building permits issued in single family, and that's a 7% decrease. I may mention that while the stay-at-home order and in the phase 1 and even in phase 2, we are still working remotely. Our staff in planning and development, permits, and other departments are working remotely where possible in order to conduct business and keep the business of government moving. And for the most part, we haven't slowed down the processes for building permits and other permitting processes. And I think you'll see that the building construction industry is still moving despite the COVID at this time. But we have experienced a 7% decrease in the first 6 months. With regards to our budget, our 2020 budget compared to 2019 budget, again, through the first 5 months of this year, and I'm going to be specific with the 2-cent sales tax that we collect that is used primarily for roads, bridges, and drainage, capital improvements, as well as some operations in the departments that deal with the construction of and maintenance of roads, bridges, and drainage. That 2% sales tax generates about $52 million annually. And so far this year, for the first 5 months, and this was some numbers that I spoke to Lacey about earlier without having the numbers in front of me. The first 2 months were pretty much on schedule year to date and month to date. However, in mid-March is when the stay-at-home order was issued. We experienced a 1.8% decrease for the second half of the month. Well, for the month, but primarily because of the second half of the month of March. In April, that was the biggest month that we've suffered a sales tax decrease in that particular fund, which was about an 8% drop in sales tax revenue for that month of April, which amounts to about $350,000. And in May, that number was back up. There was only about a loss of $3,500 that month compared to that month last year, which is about an 0.08% decrease. So through the first 5 months of this year, through May, because we do not yet have the June numbers yet, we'll have that early next month. But through May, our sales tax revenue is down for that particular sales tax, the 2-cent sales tax, by 1.6%, 1.6% decrease, or in dollar amount, that's $340,000. Again, $340,000 less this year than it was last year at this time. What I'm anticipating, and I've spoken with Chris Massengill at St. Tammany Corp, and of course conferring with our finance department, Leslie Long and her longtime experience in parish government finances, there are a lot of uncertainties in the months to come, particularly this year and even in 2021. We're anticipating, and as we're preparing our budget, we're anticipating anywhere, and we haven't finalized the number yet, but anywhere from a 2 to 5% decrease in overall sales tax revenue, reduction in sales tax revenue for through the remainder of the year. And we want to be conservative as we budget for next year. As far as expenditures, again, I mentioned how we deferred purchases and even the start of some projects. Year-to-date expenditures are about 10% lower for the first half of the year than it was last year. So while we have the revenue coming in, not knowing how we're going to move forward, what the climate of COVID is going to do, both from a health prospect and from the economic prospect, we're for the first half of this year, we're 10% lower in expenditures. Not that we're not going to step that up as we proceed through the end of this year with purchases and projects that we have on the books. And I'll mention a few projects, perhaps in the question and answer about what is moving forward with that regard. I mentioned the 2021 budget. We're preparing that now. I've been meeting with department heads and directors, along with Leslie and her staff, as we have asked each director to prepare and submit a standstill budget for their departments. And we're taking all of that information and we'll compile it and submit a proposed budget to the parish council at its meeting on October 1st this year. It's typically presented at the first meeting of October, or the monthly meeting of October. The parish council will hold a public hearing at their November meeting, typically, and has the option of either adopting it then or adopting it at the December parish council meeting. So that is in the process now. We're basing our numbers on the first half of this year and projections that we have and predictions for next year. I want to address the fiscal challenge because that's very important. While we're in pretty good shape considering COVID for this year, for 2020, as I mentioned, we're only 1.6% down in sales tax revenue this year. And I compare that to other parishes that are around us that are suffering much more with the decrease in sales tax revenue and other taxes. But we do have a fiscal challenge in front of us. I knew that when I was running last year. I knew that when I took office. And it's on my mind and the minds of our parish councilmen each and every day. We have a run-out schedule. Leslie has prepared and updates us regularly with a run-out schedule based on our current budget and available fund balances. And based on that, and after the required reserve, we have to maintain a required reserve in our fund balances. We are able to sustain us through the end of next year, through the end of 2021, that budget year. So we are planning now. I am working with each of our council leadership, parish council leadership, Councilman Lorino, Councilman Toledano, and others, Finance Director, CFO Leslie Long, and others to determine alternatives to address moving forward. And those alternatives can include several things, and I believe I heard Lacey mention it earlier. My overall goal is to exhaust all means of using existing revenue to sustain us for a period of time longer than I just mentioned. That has been that is my primary goal. If we have done so and we need to find another source of revenue, then we will have to do so in order to maintain not only our budget, but the state mandated costs that we have to provide to the DA's office, the judges, clerk of court, assessor, all the funding that we provide for those offices, not necessarily salaries and operating expenses, but the costs that are associated with maintaining those offices that are state mandated. So we do have to make up quite a bit of revenue that was lost due to the failure of the 0.25 cent sales taxes. There were 2 of those that amounted to a ½ cent sales tax revenue. And we will have answers. We will have alternatives. And it will not just be me and parish council and our finance department coming up with that. We will be reaching out to all of our partners and all interested in providing input in an organized fashion to come up with alternatives to determine what is the best route to take for providing sustainable revenue, particularly for maintenance and operation of the Justice Center, maintenance and operation of the parish jail, which are both parish properties. So that will be coming up, and again, it's not off the picture. So with that said, I'm going to end my presentation at this point, and we'll be happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation. I hope I've been able to outline our current situation with revenue. It's not as dire as maybe expected, and I'm glad that we're given the opportunity to share that. But we're not out the woods. We have we have to provide for government throughout the end of this year, through next year, and beyond, and we will have a plan to do so. And I thank you for the support of the Chamber, St. Tammany Corp, North Shore Community Foundation, and all of our partners out there that are assisting us and praying for us during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I do want to say again, we have 55 participants on this Zoom. We do have representatives of the boards of all 3 organizations, as well as members, again, and other elected and government leaders. Questions are starting to appear. I have not read them yet, but we would like to continue as planned with Mayor Cromer. We are a little actually ahead of schedule, so we always love when that happens. We're going to start Mayor Cromer at 3:35, but we're actually starting him at 3:30. So, Greg, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. You got me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we're ahead of schedule. Maybe we'll get through with this before 4:30 at the rate we're going. I promise you that I'm not going to drag on or beleaguer you too much, for sure. We were, before COVID, since I've been in office in July of 18, our revenue stream for our sales taxes in particular, which represents about 48% of our budget, had been up consistently 5 to 6% month over month for the full first 18 months that we'd been in office. So we have reasonable surplus built up, and we were preparing to do a supplemental budget to spend some surplus dollars that we had when COVID took effect. One of the good things about it is we were in the middle of preparing our budget for our 2020-21 budget cycle, and we have always budgeted very conservatively. Sharon has budgeted conservatively with her estimates and predictions of revenues, and we were able to give employees a 3% raise last year. We were planning to do that again this year. But when COVID hit in March, we backpedaled very quickly and restarted the budget, if you will. And Sharon did some conservative estimating of projecting of revenue streams and reduced our budget accordingly for the coming year, which meant that we took some very, I'd call it aggressive measures with what we were planning to do for next year. We were going to give everybody a 3% across the board pay raise, which was in the 21 budget to begin with. We immediately removed that. We had about a dozen different adjustments to employees in the pay scale, as far as some that needed to be adjusted to be in the proper level in the pay scale and some that were being promoted. And we put all of those on hold, as well as creation of a couple of new positions that we put on hold, and may look at that mid-year when we do a supplemental budget. And then again, we may not look at it until next year. We also increased the monies that we were putting in our contingency funds and all of our fund balances from 15% to 25% to offset any losses that we were projecting to receive. And for our new budget year, we challenged all agencies, all departments to reduce overtime by a significant percentage. That would be a big factor in our overhead costs for police and with some of the public works folks. That's how we moved into the budget year, and the budget that was approved the end of June for beginning of July 1. We've been fortunate, and at first I thought maybe we're an outlier, but in talking with other mayors around the area and talking with folks at the parish level about what's going on with their revenue streams, I'm not sure we're an outlier, but we're doing pretty good. In March, we were down 5.6% in our sales tax revenue, which, as I said, is about half of our revenue stream. We expected to be down 10 to 15% in March because it was only half of a month where we were essentially shut down. But we were only down 5.6%. We were projecting a 20 to 30% reduction in April, and we were only down 3.1%. We were projecting May, June, July to be in the 20 to 30, maybe 40% range of reduced revenue streams. But lo and behold, we came back in May and we saw a 6.5% year over year increase in our revenue streams, which we were pleasantly surprised. But when you go to the grocery store, you go to the hardware store, you go to those types of businesses around town, it's quick to understand why and what happened. We're concerned about what's going to happen with the June numbers, July numbers, and the August numbers for a number of different reasons. Some people have kind of settled into a more normal state and maybe aren't going to the grocery store quite as frequently. They're not stocking up on a bunch of items at one time. Honeydew projects, past due projects around your home or around your properties, those are being exhausted. People have been at home quite a bit and had a lot of time to work around their homes, and therefore we're expecting the hardware stores to maybe not see the increases that we've seen. So we're real concerned about what the next 3 months are going to look like. But I can tell you that in the market segments in town, what we've seen year to date are our retail store revenues that we received, tax revenues, are down 40 to 60%. Our hotel and motel receipts are down 70%. Our restaurants are down about 35%. Probably would have been worse had we not been able to get back into a 50% capacity in those restaurants and get most of them up and running. Hardware and lumber stores, as I said, they've been a saver for us, and they're up 20%. Pharmacy and medical receipts are up 20. And the biggie is grocery store receipts are up almost 40%, which offsets the losses that we had in the retail, hotel, motel, and the restaurant business pretty much. As far as the city economy goes, our businesses seem to be holding their own right now. At least as far as the number of businesses that we've actually had 27 new businesses start and 7 businesses have changed hands. 20 business licenses have been pulled. They're out of business. So we're up a net of 7 new businesses throughout this, which is kind of unheard of. But how the rest of our businesses are faring, depending on what sector you're in, as to whether or not they're going to be productive into the future and be able to sustain themselves for the long run. We're seeing going to continue to see reduced revenues in the retail space, I'm afraid. And I know some of the retailers that are out in Fremo, Town Center in particular, are concerned about what their futures will look like. Not to mention the fact that several of the stores that have closed are some of the bigger stores that like Pier 1 and things of that nature. I think Forever 21, those stores that they're closing nationwide. It's not just a phenomenon in our area, but it's a nationwide impact, and we're feeling the pinch of it. I know one restaurant closed in the city here, may or may not reopen, but right now has no plans to reopen. And that was because they were going to be focused more on their high producing stores, the stores that were making the most money for them, that they need to get back up and running and get in a good shape before they start to focus on their lesser producing stores. And that's not to say that this store was maybe a lesser producing store, but it was one of their newer stores in their chain. And their focus is not on that store right now. So businesses seem to be holding their own. As long as we don't move backwards in the phase of where we're at and have to reduce capacities in any of our restaurants or any of our storefronts, I think we're at a pretty good place in the city right now. There still seems to be some optimism about where we're going to be in the future. People are still interested in investing in Slidell and opening businesses and stores. I'm talking to 3 new businesses on a daily basis that are considering moving and starting operations in our area. So there's still some optimism about the community and about the future of our community. As I say, when I started this, I thought maybe we were an outlier as far as the revenues go. I don't think we really are. But how long we will stay in a positive manner, I'm really concerned about through the end of the year. And the property tax issue coming up at the end of the year, it's only about 18% of our total revenue stream. But when we get to that point, are people and businesses going to have revenues available to pay those tax bills? Or are they using all of that revenue to pay their operating expenses and their day-to-day costs just to get to the end of the year? So I think there's still some, there still should be some trepidation about where we're going to end up at the end of the calendar year and where we'll end up at the end of the fiscal year next year for us, as we're just starting this fiscal year. I guess that's pretty much all that I had to talk about as far as where we're at in the city. We've been pleasantly surprised month to month with the revenue streams. And as we have prepared for this, we have not reduced staff any. We've kept everybody fully employed, fully engaged. We did have about a 2 or 3 week period where we had about half of the staff at home, not working, standing down. They were paid. The other half of the staff we considered essential, and they were coming in to work. About week 3 or 4, we brought everybody back into the office, and we fully opened up fully for all operation, and haven't missed a beat since. Our COVID experience so far has been very limited. We've not had a great deal of employees that have had any positive tests, or been, we've had some that were out of work because of exposure to a close family member or a coworker of a spouse, and we have taken all precautions to send them home, leave them home for quarantine, self-quarantine for 14 days, and get test results from them before they come back. So we're taking all precautions to try to assure that our workforce is in a good place and taken care of, and that the community is getting the services they've come to expect. We're not concerned about revenue streams right now because they've been in a good light, and because we budgeted with an increased level of contingency for this year. So we're pretty comfortable right now. If we can ride the rest of the year out, the rest of the calendar year out as we are right now, there'll be a good chance that we'll be able to put a few capital projects that we've put on the wayside. We could probably start them with a supplemental budget and get some things going that we'd like to get accomplished this year. That's about all I have. Let's open it up to questions.
Okay, that was certainly a breath of fresh air in the midst of the pandemic. And we do have several questions, and I'm going to start at the top. Matt, you are getting the first question, and there's actually 3 questions that can roll over into this. The first question is, does the increased revenues to the various agencies include the rollbacks? If they roll back, why such a big increase? And I'll reread the questions, but I'm going to read you the other 2 that are related to that. Do you anticipate a downturn in millage revenue as a result of the pandemic? And I think Mayor Cromer referred to that. Will people actually be able to pay their property tax bill? And the third one is, why did we have a $29 million in reassessment increases that were not done every 4 years prior? So if you need me to reread those one at a time, I'm happy to do that.
Well, let me start with your last one first, and then whatever I miss, we'll try to catch. First of all, regarding the 29 million, is people may or may not know, we have about 125,000 assessments in the parish. When Lewis first was elected in 13, we had 20,000 improvements that had never been measured or photographed. So there was something on the roll, but we didn't know what the value was. Our initial plan, which we implemented, was to make sure we had everything accurate south of the interstate. And there were 2 reasons for that. One, we wanted to make sure we were prepared for any hurricane issue that might require us to go in there and devalue properties. We wanted to make sure we had that information accurate. And if you remember back then, there was a lot of discussion about flood insurance, maybe either going away or it might have gone up tenfold. So we wanted to be prepared as we moved into 2016 in case we had to devalue properties south of the interstate because of flood insurance issues. So that's where our effort was for those first few years. While we were doing that, we were in the process of measuring and photographing not just south of the interstate, but north of the interstate. So we spent 15, 16, 17, 18, and probably even some 19, measuring and photographing properties that we either never measured or photographed before, or stuff that we found in GIS. Now, as you know, we're not allowed to reassess property in a non-reassessment year. We knew from what we were finding, 15, 16, 17, probably mostly 18, that we had a significant number of properties north of the interstate that was significantly undervalued. So again, we were not able to, we had to wait to 2020 to make sure we comprehensively reassess all those areas and not piecemealing a piece of property here and there. So that's why you're seeing the large increase for 2020. I think you asked, what is our concern about having to, the numbers we reflecting are reflective of the rollbacks, okay, that increase. You're asked whether or not we anticipate having to devalue some more properties because of income. Let me say this, I don't think on the residential, first of all, pays the majority of the ad valorem taxes in the parish. And we're not seeing anything to indicate to us that there's been a devaluation of homes in the area. So I don't think you'll see any changes in regards to any of that, other than beyond the normal mistakes that might have occurred as in any reassessment year, not just quadrennial. We do anticipate on the commercial side, the hospitality industry, and some of the retail industry, the rental properties with mom and pops in them, where some of the landlords are going to have reduced rents for a period of time, either reduced, some tenants may move out, and some of those rents may be postponed. So we do anticipate maybe a 2%, 3% reduction in revenues because of us having to do change orders on those properties.
Do the increased revenues to various agencies include the rollbacks?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and I think you already explained why there would still be an increase. Okay.
Plus, there's natural growth that occurred during the year from all the new construction that is in those increased numbers too, not just reassessment numbers.
Okay, thank you, Matt. This one is for President Cooper. Are you seeing an increase in online purchase sales taxes versus our traditional brick and mortar businesses? And I'm not sure that that would be a question for you or for the sheriff, who I would just like to say we had hoped to have a representative from the sheriff's office participate today and perhaps future. So you may not have that answer.
No, I do not have that answer. Leslie is here in the room with me, and I have information that she provided for that. No, I do not have a breakdown of that, but with that being said, we know, as we're anticipating our budgets ahead, our revenues ahead, just like Mayor Cromer said, we can anticipate more online purchasing. The models for retail is changing. We're anticipating that with our budgeting and our forecasting. We support our local businesses, and we hate to see those that are closing due to the public health crisis that we're in. But I do not have that breakdown, but I would venture to say that we're seeing more toward the online purchases versus the retail when it comes to other than your staples, groceries, and such. I'd like to chime in on something that through the assessor's office, and I want to go back to that chart that Matt first had up. You don't need to show it, but it was the first chart, the graph of the pie that showed the division of the millages, how they're distributed throughout the parish, including the municipalities and all the governmental agencies. I want to highlight the fact that of 100% millages that are distributed across to parish agencies or to entities in St. Tammany Parish, the school board, of course, is the largest beneficiary of our sales tax, of the millages, ad valorem taxes. The fire protection, all fire protection agencies, there are 13 fire protection districts, or 12 plus the city of Covington, make up 18% of the total millages collected go to these agencies. And parish government is third with 12.47% of that. And that includes, that 12.7% includes the library system, the coroner's office, and public health and those agencies as well. So it's important that when thinking of parish government, we get a sales tax revenue, we have ad valorem property taxes, but in the scheme of things, in the total pie, parish government receives 12.47% of that. So just wanted to make that comparison and show that analogy as we talk about tax initiatives in the future where everybody stands. So I just wanted to chime in on that. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Mike. That is an ongoing question here at the Chamber. Our Public Policy Committee over the years, presentations by the assessor or sheriff or parish presidents over the years, that has been a question, and I think it's good that you pointed that out. So thank you. The next question is for Mayor Cromer. Why are essential workers working from home at this time? Is this the most efficient process for permitting?
We don't have essential workers working from home at this time. Everybody's on deck and actively engaged. We have not had anybody essential working from home in probably a month and a half. It's since about the third weekend of the COVID. We've been back in shop and on job. There was a question about permits I saw a minute ago to me. In 2019, we had 10 commercial permits issued and 29 residential permits issued. And in 2020, we've had 5 commercial and 4 residential permits that were issued. Our goal is to turn permits over in 48 hours upon request. Some of them we've done quicker than that. From time to time, it takes a little longer if there's a little more detail, but we're working towards getting it at a minimum of 2-day turnaround to pull a permit on activities in the city. Can I take another question while we're here?
I think that was your only question, Greg. Scrolling through, and actually, it's been pointed out that may have been a question for President Cooper about employees working from home. Oh, wait, you do have one more, Greg?
You want me to take that one regarding new business
Oh, this
opening
is for Greg. Oh, yes, okay.
east side of the parish? Do we know if these tend to be home-based businesses or larger businesses investing in commercial real estate with a fiscal presence as well? I mentioned 3 businesses. None of them are home-based businesses. 2 of them would probably build structures. One of them is looking at a repurpose of an existing structure. Those are the ones that I feel very confident that we're going to make progress and make headway with. There's another half a dozen that we're in the discussion phases with that several of them are looking at retail space out at Fremo. Another one's looking at repurposing an existing space on Gauze. Those are not at the point where I'd feel real comfortable saying they're going to happen, but we're in discussions with them. And they're a situation where I say there's optimism in the community. People are looking to invest in businesses and in property in the community. And when you have that happening, that somebody's looking at you and thinks that you're on a good track and feels good about you. And whenever we see that in Slidell, we try to give those people a fast track and help them invest their money in our community as quickly as possible. If they want to spend money in Slidell, we're going to help them do so and help them get that return, that money coming back to them as quickly as possible. And that's not because I'm a good guy. It's because I want that sales tax and that tax revenue that I will receive from that money turning over in the economy. So there's those three businesses that I mentioned in particular. I feel real confident we'll see them opening up. Two of them are structures that would take probably a year or thereabouts to build and complete. So that's a little bit down the road, but we'll see them. And the other one that's the repurposed, that would be probably 6 months out.
Okay. Again, a breath of fresh air. We like that good news. Thank you so much.
We do too.
Yes, and we have another President Cooper question. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, Mike, but can you give a report on the status of major roadway infrastructures that are either ongoing or planned for the rest of your current term? I know you mentioned that some projects were stalled and some were ongoing or underway, but
Okay, well, not really stalled, but yeah, let me give an update on that. Some of the high profile projects underway right now, as you can see, I-12, the widening project that started in the previous administration is now underway. The first leg from 190 to Highway 59, that is underway right now. That's going to take about 2.5 years. The next project will get underway, I-12, in later this year, which will be about a 2-year project. So they'll run concurrently. That's from 190 going west to Highway 21. So that's high profile, and we're going to have to deal with the detours and lane conversions for the next 2.5 years. But we're happy to have that underway. In the Slidell area, we have plans for a series of roundabouts on Highway 190 West. This is on highway, this is a state highway roadway, but the parish is participating in this with the Regional Planning Commission. There's a series of roundabouts between Highway 11 going west to North Shore Boulevard. And there's about 5 or 6 roundabouts planned for that area. Those are in the planning stages. Also in the Slidell area, currently we have a project going on the I-10 service road, replacing 2 bridges, mill and overlaying the service road for the convenience and safety of the citizens who drive in that area. 2 bridges that are responsibility of the parish were woefully inadequate and had to be replaced. And that project is underway as we speak. We also have the Highway 190 overpass at Claiborne Hill going north, Collins Boulevard to the Lee Road intersection. That first phase of a much larger project is in the design stages, with bid letting to be late next year to improve the first phase of that widening the overpass bridge and adding lanes going northbound on that section of highway. So those are a number of things. One other is design is underway for the improvement of Harrison Avenue between Highway 190 and Covington and Highway 59 at Abita Springs. That's a major east-west corridor that we're in the design stages for that. I may mention too that I have put in a request with the Regional Planning Commission with our local participation to fund a major thoroughfare plan. The parish has several plans that show capital improvement projects, roadways and such, but we do not have a true major thoroughfare plan that can be adopted by the parish government, by the parish council, in order to use as a roadmap, if you will, to obtain funding and plan for major thoroughfares, particularly going east and west across our parish. That is in the process. It will include public input of course, from all parts of our parish to come up with a major roadway plan, major thoroughfare plan, provided through a consultant that we'll have to use as a roadmap moving forward. So those are just some of the projects we have with regards to roadway projects.
This is one from Matt. We just have a few more questions, so we still should be done before 4:30. Why are we still finding property that was off the tax roll? Is all property on the tax roll now in St. Tammany?
Good question. We have been drawing and mapping the parish, and we probably have about 90% of it drawn. So as we draw and map, and as we do photometry flyovers every 4 years, we find more properties. We have found lots and lots of properties during Assessor Fitzmaurice's term. I mean, surprising stuff that we just, I can't tell you why they're not on a roll, but we found tons. Now, I'll say probably in the last 6 months of the year, not so many. I think we've found most of everything, but as we do some more drawings north of the parish with our GIS system, I think we're still going to find some houses that have been built in the 60s and 70s that were never permitted because permits were not required up there at that time. So I don't think there's a lot of money in that what we're going to find, but I do think we are going to find some more properties.
Okay, thank you. I know since Lewis took office, we have heard about properties being found. And some of you will recall that the chamber has traditionally done what we call state of breakfast, where we have state of the assessor's office, the district attorney, the cities, education, et cetera. So we have, and we need to stay on top of it. And that's why we're really happy that y'all agreed to participate in this conversation. There are a couple of questions that I don't think can be answered.
Could I add one more thing, Lacey?
I'm sorry. Sure, Matt, go ahead.
I will say this. Now, when we do find a property, we don't wait for reassessment to put it on the roll. We put it on the roll immediately. Okay.
Okay, great. That's good to hear.
Do they pay back taxes when they're found?
Do they pay back taxes when they are found? Is the question.
By law, we are allowed to go back 3 years, but we have not done that. We sort of take the approach, we don't know whose fault it is, that wise, wasn't found. We don't necessarily expect people to tell us, hey, we're not on the roll.
Mm-hmm.
Send me a bill. So to this point, we put them on a roll immediately when we find them and go from there.
Okay, thank you. All right, there's a question about sales taxes. And so we, again, don't have the sheriff here, but it was pointed out that the big pieces of the pie for property taxes are schools and fire districts. But it's been pointed out that schools and fire districts do not get any sales taxes. So we just want to make that point. And also, this would be the final question. I believe this would be for President Cooper. Are there any plans to create a Parkways or Beautification department to improve our major roadways like Highway 190?
There are no plans to create a department in order to beautify 190. However, 190, if you're speaking of 190 in the Covington area, that has just gone through a major roadway project, super street project, I believe they call it, with some landscaping. Actually, St. Tammany Parish government, through the agreement with DOTD, will assume responsibility for maintenance of that median next year. When DOTD does projects, you more or less have to commit to certain things, whether it be taking over the sidewalks or taking over the landscaping, and that will be a part of our system. And this will come out of our our 2-cent sales tax that is used for roads, drainage, bridges. It can also be used for beautification. It's important that we keep our highways and byways clean and beautiful, litter-free. We ask our citizens, of course, to help us in doing so. So yes, keeping our highways beautiful is important. And I want to also, with regard to going back to the millages and the pie, I meant that comment in that not to take away from the schools and the fire districts earning millages and having that as their primary revenue, but to emphasize the fact that St. Tammany Parish government, even though it receives sales taxes, in the scheme of things, I think our citizens feel that when they get their tax bill, that most of the ad valorem taxes go to parish government. Many may not read the itemized portion of the tax bill. So it was not meant to detract from the need of our fire districts and our school system for receiving their millages that are due to them.
No, thank you, Mike. I think that was a good observation. Again, we're getting some more input here, and as stated at the opening of this, when we decided to do this as a series and bring together a mayor, a president, and an assessor, we do have future panels planned in addition to the first 6. But we're already learning because we're getting things put up on the screen and we don't know the exact answer. But someone commented wrong. Schools are the largest sales taxes recipient and received 101 million from July 1st of 18 to June 30th of 19. So we are here to provide information. We can follow up on these and we can follow up on any other unanswered questions. I think we have created more questions among today's participants, and they're still popping up on the screen. So I'll just throw them out. I don't know that we have an answer to these questions. This question has come up before. I know we have Chief Kaufman on the call, and there is the question of why do we need 13 fire districts? That question has popped up here twice, and I believe that may be a conversation for a future COVID conversation. So that does conclude the questions and answer sessions.
Hey, Lacey, can I close out with a couple of remarks?
Sure, go ahead, Greg.
I'd just like to thank the Chamber for hosting this today. And the idea of the foundation and St. Tammany Corp to join partners with you to do this, I think is a great idea for our citizens and our business community, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate. I just got to say that, you know, we're doing well in Slidell. It's not because of one individual or one thing. It's because we've got a great team Slidell. Fire Department, the Fire District 1, Slidell Police Department, City of Slidell Public Works, and Slidell Memorial Hospital that work every day doing everything they can to provide the best services and what our citizens come to expect. And then we got great partners like Chris Massengale and the Fire District or St. Tammany Corporation that are helping us create these opportunities that will give people jobs and give us opportunities to grow our economy here. And of course, last but not least, can't leave out our tax collector, who has diligently stayed with the job of collecting our taxes throughout this, whether they've been at home or in the office. Without them being there on the job to make this happen, none of us would have received any of these bounties that we've been receiving for the past couple of weeks. So I'd just like to thank everybody that's helped us in the successes we've had to this at this point, and hopefully we'll continue to do so through the end of this year and throughout this COVID pandemic and get past this in the not too distant future to a brighter day for our community and our parish and our state.
It's good to hear about teamwork and partnership and collaborations.
Thanks, Lacey. And as I use for a close, when I'm on the radio or in other capacities, I want to thank particularly now our hospitals, our 4 major hospitals in St. Tammany that are, and our healthcare workers and professionals that are dealing with our citizens each and every day as they're admitted or treated. They're doing a fantastic job. Our overall goal during this time was to reduce the impact on our hospitals. That's what the reason for the stay at home and the phase 1 and phase 2. We're continuing to urge our citizens to slow the spread of the coronavirus by taking all the precautions. We ask our business community to do so. I want to thank our mayors who have participated with a promotion, a video promotion to wear a mask to help slow the spread, cover your face and wear a mask. That's been a great promotion, as well as the business community. The Chamber and St. Tammany Corp has also joined with us to do a promotion across our parish to urge our citizens to slow the spread of the virus by taking all the precautions. So thanks to all who are doing what we need to do so we can move into phase 3, get our schools open, get our businesses back open, so that we can return to, I don't want to say return to normalcy, because we want to get back as close as possible in the weeks and months to come. And it takes all of us to do so. We have a personal responsibility to do so. And I urge and thank in advance all those who are participating. Thank you.
It's clear that this is the beginning of a longer conversation and a longer exchange of solutions, realistic ideas to provide basic services to St. Tammany citizens, as well as to maintain our outstanding quality of life that we all enjoy so much living here. The next, everyone on the call will receive an email, and you might receive 2 emails. We're sending one just to today's participants that will include the times and dates of the next 5 sessions. Again, we may add more. The Chamber has overseen the first 2 sessions, and Chris and Susan will be working with the panelists on the next 4 sessions. We're going to call it a day here and convene this meeting. We welcome you to email any of us here at the Chamber any additional questions that we can direct to the panelists. And we look forward to having you in future conversations. Our elected officials, please keep up your hard work, your perseverance and tenacity. We appreciate you so much.